This is a special report from ABC News Digital.
Hello, I'm Ty Hernandez in New York, and this is an ABC News Digital special report. British Prime Minister David Cameron took center stage in London's House of Commons, urging support for military intervention in Syria, hearing questions, some cheers, and a few boos.
To do so, that is what today's motion is about, and I commend it to the House.
Calm and patience are required.
More from Iraq this afternoon at Parliament in a moment, but first we're joined by ABC's Taman Bradley with the latest on Syria from Washington. Taman?
Hi, Ty. President Obama is meeting with his national security team today behind closed doors before briefing members of Congress tonight about his decision on Syria. All the president will say right now is that if he orders a strike, it would be limited. As President Obama weighs a possible attack on Syria, his administration is scheduled to brief members of Congress by phone today on the situation. It's also expected that the administration will seek to build public support for action, releasing in the next day or so a comprehensive intelligence report justifying military action against the Syrian regime in response to an alleged chemical attack it launched against civilians. The president told the PBS NewsHour he wants to send Bashar al-Assad a strong but measured message.
I have no interest in any kind of open-ended conflict in Syria, but we do have to make sure that when countries break international norms, that they are held accountable.
UN chemical weapons inspectors in Syria headed out for another day of investigations. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon wants the United States and its allies to wait for the inspectors' report before a military strike.
They will come out of Syria by Saturday morning.
And there are reports out of Syria that military installations and government buildings have evacuated in the capital as the country prepares for a possible attack. Ty?
And Taman, today brings more legal questions as President Obama put forward his justification for a possible attack in Syria.
What's really interesting, you saw that vote going on today in the Parliament. What the president is saying is that he is sure, the administration is positive that those chemical weapons were used by the Syrian regime on civilians. And the president is arguing that those chemical weapons pose a threat to U.S. national security. That was the same basis that the Bush administration made, argument that the Bush administration made back in 2003 before the invasion of Iraq.
Now, Taman, what's the latest from the administration on the president's decision-making process? We know that the U.S. has possibly urged the investigators to come back home, perhaps paving the way for an airstrike.
Yeah, it does seem that President Obama is not waiting for those UN investigators. All we know right now is that the White House is saying that the president has not made his decision, but it looks like the president will decide whatever he's going to decide without waiting for the UN, although U.S. allies do want the president to hold off and wait.
And what about Congress? The members of Congress have been pushing pretty hard for the White House to more formally present its case. Will they get what they want?
Well, some of them are probably not going to be satisfied at all with the case that the administration makes. Now, the president today is going to brief them. There will be classified briefing and there will be unclassified information that goes out there. But some people want the president to get congressional authorization for any type of military attack. But of course, that is unlikely. Congress is not even in session right now. Some members want Congress to come back to get that authorization.
All right. ABC's Taman Bradley in Washington. Thank you for joining us. Now we go now to London, where ABC's Nick Schifrin's been monitoring the debate both inside the Parliament and across the UK. Good afternoon, Nick.
Hi, Ty. How are you?
All right, good. So we've seen some passionate exchanges today in the halls of British power. If the U.S. decided to strike, say today, where do we know or where do we think the Cameron government stands?
It's very simple. If the U.S. strikes today or tomorrow or frankly even over the weekend, the U.S. is alone. There is no support, official support from this government as of now. They're debating now in the Houses of Parliament. The Prime Minister here, because it's a parliamentary system, had to go to Parliament, had to get approval from hundreds of parliamentary members for this attack. At first he said, let's go forward with a single vote authorizing the attack. He realized that that would fail. Therefore, he stepped back and said, all right, let's do a single resolution at first that will say one day or soon enough we may need to attack. And it's conditional. And even that vote is not clear that he may win that. So in the UK right now, there's a long debate. There's going to be a vote in a few hours. It's not clear the United Kingdom is going to back even the thought of attacking. So as of now, the U.S. is alone, and frankly, even over the weekend or early next week, if this first resolution passes the UK Parliament and that second resolution comes up for a vote, this government may not support it.
You know, immediately following this attack, the British government made some of the strongest comments in terms of the attack and the presumption of a chemical attack. Why the hesitation now?
One word, like we've talked about for the last few weeks, for the last few days rather, and like Taman has mentioned, Iraq. The Labour Party here, which supported the Iraq war, whose leader went to war in Iraq, standing next to President Bush, is saying, hold on, wait a minute. We've seen this movie and we don't trust the intelligence. We've seen this movie and we know how it ends. And right now, that Labour Party, which has a significant portion of the opposition, is stopping this resolution, is stopping approval of a military strike. And with other people within David Cameron's own party, the Conservative Party, there's one report that says as many as 70 members of his own party are questioning this. There's a lot of people saying, look, we've been here before, 10 years ago in Iraq, we don't want to repeat.
Let's listen to both sides of the argument now directly from the speakers. First, Prime Minister Cameron earlier today laying out the rationale for intervention.
In no way does the opposition motion even begin to point the finger of blame at President Assad. Now, that is at odds with what has been said by NATO, President Obama, and every European and regional leader I've spoken to. There is an enormous amount of open source reporting. There is an enormous amount of videos we can see. There's the fact we know that the regime has an enormous arsenal. The fact they've used it before. The fact they were attacking that area. And then with the opposition, of course, there's the fact they don't have those weapons, they don't have those delivery systems, and the attack took place in an area which they were themselves holding.
A very animated call for action there. Now let's listen to the opposition leader, Ed Miliband, who took the floor, and the Labour Party's case for caution.
I think we need to gather further evidence over the coming days. That is part of persuading the international community and people in this country of President Assad's culpability, and I think that's important.
Any reckless or irresponsible action could lead to full war in that area, and we have to understand from previous conflicts that war is not some sort of hokey-cokey concept. Once you're in, you're in.
For this House, it is surely a basic point. Evidence should precede decision, not decision precede evidence.